Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Owens Art Gallery. So my name is Emily Falvey, and for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm the director-curator here at the Owens Art Gallery. Normally I would begin with the land acknowledgement, but I thought tonight I would start with a note about accessibility and disability. So tonight's conversation is being transcribed by AI-generated transcription software. It's not perfect. It will make mistakes. We've gone back and forth between various options and none of them are perfect. So I just want to let you know that it'll struggle with proper names and place names and any language that isn't English, and if we speak too quickly. And on the one hand, it can be very frustrating or annoying or entertaining. But then on the other, it's an opportunity to practice patience, compassion, and respect for people and anyone who struggles with language. So it's nice to just sort of use it as a reminder. I stumble over my words all the time. I will tonight. On that note, I'll start with land acknowledgement. I would like to acknowledge that Mount Allison University is located within the traditional territory of Mi'kmaq, the unceded ancestral homelands of the Mi'kmaq. Our relationship and our privilege to live on this territory was agreed upon in the Peace and Friendship Treaties of 1725 to 1752. Because of this treaty relationship, it is to be acknowledged that we are all treaty people and have a responsibility to respect this territory. So I'm very nervous. This is not my natural element. I think it is for Thaddeus. Karen, not so much. So Thaddeus is going to have to ground us. I often have to look down at written words to kind of find my way. So hopefully that won't bother anybody. So welcome and thank you for coming. This conversation with me, I will be moderating, and Thaddeus Holownia and Karen Stentaford. I'm going to introduce them by reading their bios, if that's all right, or is it going to drive you nuts? No? Okay. So many of you already know them, but Thaddeus Holownia is a teacher, visual artist, letterpress printer, and publisher. Born in 1949 in Bury, St. Edmunds, England, he emigrated to Canada in 1954. In 2018, he retired from a 41-year career as a professor of art at Mount Allison University, where he also served as head of the Fine Arts Department. In 1998 and 2006, he was awarded the Paul Paré Medal of Excellence, the university's award in recognition of excellence in teaching, scholarship, service, and creative achievement. He is a Fulbright Fellow and an elected Fellow of the Royal Society of Canada and the Royal Canadian Academy of the Arts. He was named to the Order of New Brunswick in 2015, and his work has been the subject of numerous exhibitions, including Shutter, which was most recently at the Nelson Museum Archives and Gallery in Nelson, BC, The Nature of Nature at the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia in Halifax, 24 tree studies for Henry David Thoreau at the Heckscher, is that how you pronounce that? Museum of Art in Huntington, New York, and Of a Feather at Cortland Gallery in Toronto. Also with us tonight is Karen Stentaford, who is an artist and educator living here in Sackville. She specializes in large format photography and the wet plate collodion process. It got it. It wouldn't get collodion. Okay, great, it's learning. Working in a variety of photographic-based media, her work explores place, belonging, and memory influenced by the Newfoundland landscape of her childhood. Stentaford received an MA in photography from the Edinburgh College of Art, a BFA from Mount Allison University, and a BEd, Visual Arts Specialist from NSCAD University and Mount St. Vincent University. She's currently an associate professor in the Pierre Lassonde School of Fine Arts at Mount Allison University. I have written thank you for being with us tonight at least 6 times, but thank you. So, as you know, the exhibition Of a Feather was organized in memory of Gay Hansen, a brilliant teacher, mentor, and ornithologist who passed away in 2021. Hansen taught at Mount Allison for 39 years and was known and admired in the community for her scientific curiosity, love of teaching and learning, and mastery of taxidermy and many craft practices, including knitting, and I have basket making, but was it basket weaving? Is that a better I guess it's the same process every time. Okay. I do not weave baskets. The exhibition of a feather celebrates her memory and legacy through consideration of how close relationships with the natural world strengthen our bonds with each other. And this is one of several programs organized around this exhibition in which we'll be able to gather and be in community. So keep your eyes open for future events. So even though I don't think I ever met Gay, she somehow managed to do me a kindness. So when I was a student here in the 90s, I was living with Karen Abbott, who was also a friend of Karen Stentaford's. And this is when Karen was an intern here at the Owens. And one day she was walking home and she came across a pigeon that was in distress. So she brought it into our apartment and she put it in a box, and she took the rack from our oven and put it over the box. And then she put it in our bathroom. And I was very pro save the pigeon, but I really didn't want to share my bathroom with it. So it stayed there for a while and we didn't really know what to do. And then she took it to Gay. And Gay looked at it and she's like, this is just a juvenile pigeon. It was trying to learn to fly and it probably wasn't succeeding. Take it home, let it go, it'll be fine. So Karen came home and she took the pigeon out of the box and put it on the windowsill, and the pigeon flew away. And I was very, very happy and grateful. So it's really happy to be able to return that gift. And I thought that maybe one of the ways we could start tonight is if you could both tell one of your favorite stories of Gay and maybe how she influenced your artistic practices in some way.
Why don't you go first? I'll go first. Well, there are numerous stories.
Can you speak into the mic?
Oh, right. This seems very religious to me.
It does have a weight.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, every day Gay affected my art career because we came together through a love of nature, and Gay was one of those people who, and I've heard numerous stories from students, both mine and hers, who interacted with her, where she was always curious about everything, and I have countless photographs of her hands holding something, because no matter where we went, there was this, oh wow, what's this? And then a story about it or questions about it that needed to be investigated. And so in my life with her, I became much more respectful and honored the natural world in a way that I never examined it before. And a lot of my curiosity, which I always had, became enriched by the fact that someone was participating in art investigation from another place, the scientific place, which is not that far from the visual arts or any other expressive medium. Yeah, and a compassion about life, compassion about other people's lives, and a compassion about the smallest little things. Like spiders are never killed in our house. They're escorted out of the house somehow, but and that's just a little example of big and small things have the same resonance.
Spiders are also escorted out of our house. I don't know if I have a particular story to share, because there's so many that I could really draw from for different reasons. But I think a lot of the points that Thaddeus touched on in terms of this curiosity and dedication and respect for the natural environment is something that I think about a lot and I associate with Gay. Sometimes it's very present in in my mind. And then other times, it just kind of creeps in. I will share that there were always many photographs sent to Gay saying, "What is this? What should I do with this? Should I be scared of this?" One being this like very big bug. And at one point I did identify it, and she informed me that I would have been identifying a bug that probably half of her intro to bio class or whichever class wouldn't have gotten. So, and but it wasn't that impressive. It was really just called a bug. So, yeah. But I think just this constant generosity that she had in not only her curiosity, but like in how she shared her knowledge. It was always this way that she was excited to share her knowledge and her love and respect with everyone who she spoke to. So,
Did she stick with things for a long time, or was she like often picking up new areas of interest, or was it a bit of both?
I think it was probably a bit of both. When she arrived at Mount A, ornithology was kind of her main subject, but as many departments do look for people to teach courses, she was always kind of, "Oh, are you interested in this subject? Well, you'll teach chordate anatomy next year." And then she'd spend the summer becoming an expert in whatever. And so she taught a lot of different courses over the course of her time here on stipend. And, the university's really good at using people.
No comment.
And and not paying them what they should be paid. But she did it, well, as I said before, for the love of doing it. And that's why there is the Gay Hansen Ornithology Lab, is because that was not something that was in her job description. It was just something that was in her heart, and spent 39 years putting it together.
I was just going to say, even things like outside of the university, I learned how to make baskets from Gay. I have like some really beautiful baskets that I made with Gay, but lots of other kinds of ways of working that she would share. So, yeah.
Thaddeus, in the show there's a work that you made with Gay called The Collector.
Mm-hmm.
Did you make other works with her, or did either of you like collaborate with her in that very like direct way on
No
projects?
Well, we did lots of things together. I built barns and she filled them with horses. The Collector was a special thing because Gay was an extraordinary taxidermist that she learned from Cyril Caldwell at Acadia. And early on in our getting together, we found a dead crow, and she said, "Hey, we should do this together, and you should see how taxidermy works." And taxidermy on one level is stuffing birds or any other creature, but the element of expertise that Gay carried was the fact that she could make something lifelike in the way that the proportions and the balance of her taxidermy was different than most other people's. And the Collector was a fun thing. We made it and we put it on the shelf in the study, and it's the first time it's ever left our house is when it came here. But I'm honored to have it here because it is a first-hand element in the exhibition that her presence is there physically from having made something together.
I feel like it fits very well. It just sits perfectly there. I've kind of organized things into sort of thematic sections, and the next sort of thing that I wanted to talk about was related to creativity is your process, your artistic process. So me personally, I'm always interested in creative practices that are rooted in like routines, repetition, or ritual, and that also like operate within a set of like parameters. And I see various forms of repetition and constraint in your respective practices, although I think it's different. One thing I've observed is you seem to share a habit of returning to certain places or objects and photographing them multiple times. So we see this in Oliver's Cove, Karen's series of work. And I remember you talking about being drawn to certain places, but also in Of a Feather, where Thaddeus spent a great deal of time photographing bird study skins that Gay had assembled as a collection in the biology department. What role does repetition play in your creative practices, and do you think about it at all, or is it just kind of an organic part of the way you work?
Sure. I think it's not really something that I set out to do. It just is the way that I'm working. In Oliver's Cove, it was one of, it just kind of happened that the first day I arrived in Tilting, I looked at the harbor and it was flat calm. And then, but I could hear waves crashing. So it was like, where is this coming from? And it was through just following the sound to get there that made me discover Oliver's Cove. And there was something there that was very powerful. And I was really like, I felt like I was searching for something and that I had found it, but then I didn't know what that was. So then I felt compelled to go back and continue searching. So I was there for 3 weeks and I would go there every day. I'm not really sure I resolved what it was I was searching for, but I think it was driven by this curiosity and maybe a bit of sense of discovery as I was working there. So I think a lot of times in terms of repetition, it comes through just the process of working, and whether that's in a condensed amount of time like Oliver's Cove, or something longer term in other bodies of work. It is something that just is more organic. But a lot of it is also the element of working in a kind of a slow or reduced pace, and spending time in places. And sometimes, an hour isn't enough and a day isn't enough. So this repetition of going back, and I think, I think that element of searching and being open to how things change as you revisit them based on how I'm feeling, based on the weather, the environment. So I think there's a lot of other kind of things that I think about or I'm aware of. Yeah.
Would you think maybe it's more of like devotion rather than like repetition, like to a practice in a place? Like,
I think if I was more aware of it, maybe I would think of it that way. But it just is like, it just makes sense, and that's how I continue to work. Yeah. I don't know. Does that answer? Okay.
What about you, Thaddeus? I'm trying to impose conceptual art frameworks onto you.
Yeah, right. Which we shed a lot. I'm famous because I did not come from art speak, so it's like I'm organic, and I when I came here, I was taken by the tides and time and living in a place that was essentially fabricated by the dikes holding back the tides and the landscape being reclaimed by people working here. And I think the notion of time became a really important element within my work, not through anything but circumstance that I had time and that I settled in one place in Jolicoeur in 1982 and have lived there in the same house that I built, or we built, and that observing nature change became an internal component for me, a really important component that is visible in some works, like, well, some people know the Jolicoeur Pond series. More extended would be the Rockland Bridge series, which took 20 years to make, but it's not intentionally taking 20 years. It's just you get in a rhythm of looking and doing things, and then before you know it, oh, this piece is created because the tides have taken the core of this work away. And in 2001, I was in an exhibition that was entitled Series, Order, and Obsession. And it was a collection of artists from around the world. It was in Hamburg, Germany. And it was artists who worked in series. And it was a real affirmation for me to see other people's work. And there were a few photographers, but Monet, haystack paintings, Donald Judd boxes, and just things that I didn't tie to my vision and my work, but all of a sudden you have this, oh, this is okay to look at the world this way and to take it, to work within that framework without knowing that you are working within that framework. And so everything, I think, tying to what Karen said, you learn from what you do, and you slow down and you make work, and then you revisit it to have it inform you. And so things like Of a Feather, that just didn't happen one time. It was kind of it was an observational process within the confines of one place, and make the work, go away, go to the studio, make some prints, put them up, think about them, rearrange your mind about how that looks, and then go back and investigate it, and sometimes abandon it. Right? It's just not always that easy, but so I think time orientation is a big part of where I live.
Yeah, like when I talk to you both, I mean, this idea of slowness comes up a lot. And I think that, Karen, you talked about how Gay taught you how to slow down and look at things more closely. But I also think, like, this relates to what you were just saying about the way that you work. There's like some kind of element to the mediums that the processes that you choose that's like inherently going to slow you down, because like large format photography is not easy to do outside. It's heavy, you have to carry it. Karen, the collodion process is usually done in a very controlled space, but you're taking it out into the environment. Why do you think, I've combined two questions and now I'm confused. Right, I want you to talk about the importance of slowness, but I also want you to talk about like the joys and the challenges of working in the way that you do, both of you.
Do you want to jump in first this time?
Sure.
We can take turns.
Yeah. We are so privileged here that we have time. Mm-hmm. We're not spending all our time surviving. And professors are extra privileged because if they're good at what they do, they get paid to do what they do, and it shouldn't be work. And I think I'll say that one of the lessons that Gay taught me was we got up and went to Mount A, but neither of us ever felt we were going to work. We were going to share our passion and hopefully infect as many people as we could with that. And so the slowness is, again, a privilege, that you're not making a living, you're not slogging away in the commercial world to sell a product. You're investing your own place and being and heart and soul and energy to create something that then may be embraced, but that's not why you make it. You make it because you believe in it, and you you are telling a story that will be interpreted, that will then hopefully, for some people, be interpreted in a very positive way and take them to a place that enriches them. And at the same time, it can be a story that people will discard and it means nothing to them. And that's absolutely okay.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just thinking about curatorial process while you were talking about that. I'm like, oh, that's familiar.
Yeah.
So I often think about how lucky I am in having time. So I would echo that. But and when you mentioned about gay and slowness, I think one of the things that I was when we were having that conversation, it was also like the way I work it is slow. I can't speed it up, even if I'm extremely efficient. But also noticing and observing and even slowing down even more to think about all the other elements that maybe I'm not responding to through my work, but it is informing what I do. And then I'm not sure the second part of your question, it's gotten away from me.
That's okay.
Okay.
I'll come back to it.
Uh-huh.
But I guess what I want to say is like, I find that slowing down is one of the most difficult things to do, but it's like one of the most important. It's like how you get outside of the things and anxiety and everything and like finding those ways to slow down. Like I started doing puzzles, but it does, it's something about being in this kind of like material world. And I see that is a very important part of the way that you approach photography.
I think I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
And I think we're very physical with whatever we're working with. And I think that, I think the success of the fine arts department in many ways is the fact that everyone teaching there is very physical with what they do and use it as an example rather than talking about it or well, whatever. But Gay would come home. This is her world was, we're driving to teach and there's a dead pheasant on the side of the road and she would, this is a true story, stop and pick up this roadkill pheasant and go to the biology department. Beth McDonald would tell this story better because she was in the class. And Gay would shift her entire class presentation that morning because she had this fresh roadkill pheasant that she could bring into class and cut it open and use the organs and everything that was there that she was going to talk about through slides. She would adapt to talk about through a physical thing and blow people's minds by having that example. And more than anything else, that's the best kind of learning. And it's kind of frightening today to see what world we're having to contend with, and especially, you as a mother, just your kids and the physicality of what's in people's hands and what is, what we notice when we go out and pick up off the ground or breathe in. And I mean, we're still lucky to be here and have that, but it's kind of a weird world going where we're going and how a lot of it is getting away from that.
Yeah, I think about this a lot because when I was growing up, I was outside all the time.
Yeah.
Like there are whole summers I wore no shoes. That's how we just how we were. And my own children are not like that, but I do feel like we moved here from Montreal and things have gotten better in that respect, being outside of a city, although there were opportunities in a city. Like that's something that I also think about. There's nature in a city, there are animals in a city, there's lots of ways to connect in those contexts as well. But I think it's just like, maybe people can relate, like being caught up in all of the things that have to be done and like all of the kind of weight of like, well, then my next set of questions sort of move on to the idea of environmentalism, right? So one thing that you can't avoid when you're making the work that you're making are things like climate change or the natural catastrophes like the work, Icarus, A Falling of Birds, speaks to. So I guess what I'm saying, what I'd like to know is if you could speak to your creative relationship with the natural world, but also how it intersects with environmentalism, or if you feel that it intersects in a kind of direct way, or if it's kind of a byproduct of just of the way that you work.
I think I love being outside. I'll throw that out there first of all. So most of the time when I'm, not necessarily planning, but when I'm considering what I'm interested in or what's really drawing me to be investigating through my work, it tends to be rooted somewhere outside. And then the slowness you're referring to, I do tend to work in ways that I'm forced to slow down and really start to pay attention, and then go back to repetition and the idea of revisiting places. So all of those things, whether I consider it to be rooted in kind of climate change, environmentalism, that may not be at the top of what I'm thinking of in certain works, but it definitely is a major part of the investigation and how I'm working. I in the work that's here in the exhibition, I'm pulling elements of the environment into the work. So there's this certain kind of unpredictability and fragility in the process that I think is also echoed in the environment. And I've also, worked in places where in Iceland, for example, the landscape is so powerful. And you're standing, you can be on one tectonic plate and a moment later on another. It's again, this like fragile but powerful place. So I think about those things a lot. And I think they come into my work organically. And then there's also, by going back to these places, whether it's a coastal area or a place where I can go past a glacier, I see the change over time. So of course that's going to inform how I'm working. And things like erosion, even just going to where I walk our dog all the time, that's changed dramatically in the last 5 years. So it all kind of plays into how I think about things, how I engage with the environment, and how I'm working.
Do you feel the same way, Thaddeus? Like, do you feel like your work is political sort of by...
I think some of it is very obviously more, well, we can use the word political. Well, Icarus Falling of Birds is definitely a statement.
It's your most political work, I think.
Probably is. Yeah, it didn't make the Irvings very happy, I'm sure. But
I don't know if everyone knows that story, though, what happened with the birds.
so the Icarus of Falling of Birds is actually, the story is told in an extraordinary long poem that is in the book called Icarus of Falling of Birds, and it's available at your best bookstore in both English and French now. And there are 2 volumes in the gallery that you can read, written by an extraordinary poet and friend, Harry Thurston. And it tells the story of a night where the LNG plant in St. John, New Brunswick was during migration, and low cloud cover flaming off gases in a big burning flame that attracted hundreds of thousands of migrating warblers at that particular time, and 10,000 birds were picked up and they were fined, I think, $700,000 or $800,000 for it under the Migratory Bird Act. Harry and I made that work, and it was a book project and the scroll, as a reminder to people that, you know, this is not a single incident, but it's easy when places are fenced off and things happen to not, you know, people don't hear about it. Gay was called, as a number of ornithologists were, to go and identify those birds, and that's how I learned about it. And then we had to wait 2 years while it was in the courts, so the birds were evidence. And eventually we went to the New Brunswick Museum and photographed them, and Harry wrote that amazing work. But I hooked up with writers very soon after I came here, and I did my first book with McGill Queen's University Press called Dykelands with Douglas Lockheed. And as much as not many people talked about climate change or the environment in 1989, when I look back at it now, there are elements of a landscape that is fragile but overlooked. And so from that experience, I continued collaborating with writers, because I found the gallery scene is a pretty it's a rarefied place.
We're here in the gallery.
Yeah, here we are. I think this is a public gallery, but anyway, books are democratic. Books go in libraries. Books people buy and share, and there's something very special. And that's a place where I have found a lot of excitement and energy. And so doing a book like Silver Ghost that celebrates the river landscapes that still have salmon in them, and essays written that are evocative of that subject matter. So yeah, I don't wave that flag, environmentalist flag, but I think it's a current that runs through my work.
For sure.
Yeah.
Karen, Thaddeus is talking about his relationship with authors and making books. Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering if you've ever thought of bookmaking as part of your practice as well.
I am thinking about it. And I'm acting on it.
What a coincidence. That's great.
But in terms of more past tense, no, I haven't ventured into that, but I'm on the path. So, and I have a good person in my life that can help.
Do you find that you work together on projects like a lot? Like I know that you're friends, and I know that you've kind of, like, I think of Thaddeus as your mentor in many ways, but then I also know that you're the reason Thaddeus and Gay went to Iceland, right? So that you share knowledge that way. Mm-hmm.
We got a long history.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a small community,
Yeah.
so you have there is a chance that every once in a while you have a student who then goes away, but you remain friends with them, and then they come back and they become a family friend, and they enrich your life because they've gone away and come back. And Karen and I actually, for many years, we belonged to Gallery Douze in Moncton, and every year we would have a show there together, and had some great shows there. We stopped doing that a few years ago, but yeah, I mean, we're kindred spirits, as I think many people here are, and we try to, we cross paths a lot. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So learning and teaching were really integral to the way that Gay moves through the world. And you just mentioned it, that is this idea of like working with students and mentoring them. You were in the Fine Arts Department, you're Professor Emeritus now, but you were there for over 40 years. Karen was one of your students. Now she's Associate Professor teaching photography. could you speak about the importance of teaching in your lives, but also in your artistic practice?
Sure, I'll start.
Sorry, are these really stilted questions?
No, it's
Oh,
okay.
that's great. That's
Okay,
really good. Really good.
It's good to think about these things.
Okay.
I think teaching and then also my practice are very much intertwined. I don't really think of them as being separate so much. You know, a lot of what I'm doing, I share with my students. And I'm also equally inspired by seeing what my students do. You know, if you teach, you kind of have a vision of how a class might go, and then you deliver material and you have certain expectations of what, you know, things are going to happen. And I always love it when that doesn't happen. I love it when I'm surprised.
Oh my God,
and
we're opposites.
when there's, you know, the element of surprise and discovery that I love so much in my own work, that I see students kind of take on that same sort of interest and dedication and curiosity. So I think there's elements like that that just kind of come and go through teaching and through my practice. But then, you know, things like I participate in different artist in residencies. So I tend to, you know, have these different experiences. I meet different artists, and then I'm able to bring that information back to the class, to the classes that I'm teaching. So I think there's different elements of like being aware and being part of conversations that are happening now in photography, in different artistic practices and ways of working. That's really exciting that I can be sharing. So yeah, it's just this beautiful back and forth that I am really open to and love. Yeah.
Do you miss teaching, Thaddeus?
He got to come back again.
Yeah,
He's always back.
pulled out of the ball. Pulled out of the bullpen here. You know, I don't miss teaching, and I don't miss it because I did a great job, I think, while I was here, and when I realized that I shouldn't be here, I retired, and my place of thinking and patience in teaching is not what would be necessary in a classroom today. And I still enjoy students coming to the studio, but I had a really great run at it, and contributed, I think, in good ways. It was a bit of a struggle sometimes, but I've kind of, you know, I never thought I had a job, and so what I'm doing now is not really a job either, but I'm really busy somehow. And but you're busy with other stuff, and yeah. But teaching, if you're engaged, is invigorating. And teaching at a university is extraordinary opportunity to be invigorated and invigorate.
Yeah, I can see that, like I have only ever taught once, but I can see like when you inspire a student to like pursue something, or you sort of reveal an avenue that they might not have known about. I think it's and I'm also discovering now, having been here for 5 years, how exciting it is when the students come back and tell you what they've done.
Yeah.
And you know, you just can be really happy for them. I have one more question before we're going to throw it open to questions from the audience. It's a very important question.
Uh-oh.
If you were a bird,
Oh,
which
dear.
bird would you be?
Oh,
Boy, that's a good one.
I don't have the knowledge of all the birds that Thaddeus has. This isn't fair.
I've thought about it. Do you want me to answer for myself?
Uh-huh.
I think I'm very fight or flight. So I would be a combination of a blue jay and a chickadee,
Oh,
if that is possible. Come on, I know you watch birds.
yep, yep. I do. And actually, I did think of this a couple weeks ago. My partner Jamie and I were talking about that exact question. And I was having a hard time, even
Oh.
like with coffee, because there's so many things that I love about the different birds. But I love crows. I do. I have friends, crow friends that visit me.
I was going to remind you of the
Yeah,
friends.
I got a present from one, like a shiny little piece of glass. So maybe I'll stick with my friends. I'll be a crow.
What about you, Daddy?
I would be a kingfisher.
Oh, that's a good one.
Look, see that? Look at the answer, the response I got. hmm
Okay. Is there any, does anyone have questions? Or want to tell us what bird they are? I'll bring the microphone to you.
That's why you have to, like, if you want to pose a question, you have to start by saying what bird you would be.
Oh, I just told Emily about that story.
It's awesome.
That story is legendary amongst mothers in Sackville in the 80s. All right, so well, I'll tell two stories about Jolly. The TV story is not a Jolly Pond story. It's a back deck story. It never made it to the pond, but it's been embellished in time, I guess. So we had a babysitter. Our kids were maybe 5, and Joseph was maybe 7, and Inga was 5, and Theo was 3 or 4. And I think Julian Julian hadn't come along. So anyway, we came home. We'd come home together, and we'd have babysitter for a couple hours after the kids would come home on the bus. And there was some strict rules about television. This is late 80s, early 90s. There's no internet. There's no cable TV in Jolicoeur. So the kids are watching, I don't remember what, but Gay was not happy about it. She took the TV and she went out on the back deck and threw it off the back deck. Twice. She didn't think it broke bad enough the first time that she went down and got it. That was the end of TV in our house, which was good. Theo threatened to throw her sewing machine off the back deck as retaliation, which was good. But the Jolicoeur Pond series is a good story that the kids said. I can't remember I think it was also Theo. So when the kids got to be about 13, 14, I was going on some road trips, and so I would take one of the kids with me. And we'd fly to Vegas, and because it was really cheap, and then we would rent a vehicle, and usually we'd meet up with I had a few friends in the American Southwest that we would meet up with, and we would drive around and make photographs in the American Southwest. And Inga learned how to drive in the desert in Arizona when she was like 13. So I came back after the second time. I went with Inga and I went with Joseph, and then we were having supper one night in the fall, and Theo was all excited. Where are we going to go next summer? I get to go. And I said, we don't have to go anywhere. We can make artwork here, and it will be as amazing a landscape as anywhere that you're going to go in the world. And that's when I made the Jolicoeur Pond series. That just set up a view camera on the back deck, and a tripod, and the camera would go out when it was interesting. But there's lots of stories of traveling with kids. We were lucky because we had 2 different ideas going on in the car about observation and life.
I think, well, I like that question. Thank you. I think, well, for me, that over the last maybe 10 years or so, working the way I do with the wet plate collodion process, one of the really exciting things working that way is that I don't actually get back to the studio to kind of assess how things are going, because I have my dark room with me right there. So I'm making the work and kind of have this like momentum and energy that is there. And I actually am processing right there as well. So I don't really, everything kind of happens on site. So there's not really this downtime as much in terms of the actual like editing and making. If I decide something's not making the cut, I take a blade and I scrape it off the plate and it's already gone. So a lot of what I do is on site. And maybe the second part in terms of like going back to the studio and working, maybe that's more about giving it time and space to exist, and that element of reflection and how important that is. So yeah, it's a bit of both, I guess, but a lot of it happens right there. So
Ditto.
ditto. Yeah.
Well, I think probably I have a luxury of having a lot of time behind me, which amounts to a lot of work and a lot of observation, a lot of funneling of where are you, where have you been, and where are you going. And that long history refines you a little bit, I think. It doesn't lessen the excitement or the challenge of being insecure about what you're doing, but I think you go down, I find I go down more sure paths in the last 20 years than maybe in the first 20 years, just because I learned a lot as I went along. And I'm in this, I actually am making more work in the studio now than ever before, because things, I guess I find beauty in a lot of things I want to bring back to the studio and examine over time there. And so there's a kind of an equal partnership of observation in the landscape and a close examination of material that becomes something else. Yeah. I think artists, regardless of their medium, knowing many artists work so much in private that it's an interesting place that someone could write something really amazing about, that because you're in your head a lot, and regardless of the physicality, I find that I think about photography is a great medium because you can actually do a lot of things in your head. The physical part of making a negative is almost kind of an atomic thing that you can do without thinking a lot about it. And then you don't have anything except this piece of film that you haven't developed yet. And you can build on that for a long time before you actually have physical things that you observe and in your studio and reflect on, and then decide what they're going to be. And I think that's a place that photography occupies. I think that's very different than the physical making of things, like painting or drawing. And I think I was drawn to that initially, that there was this freedom of being out in the world without being locked in, tied to the studio in a much larger way. But you got to do it. And I think that, so I'll throw this one out. Sadly, I would say a large proportion of students do not live up to their potential because they're lazy or stuff gets in the way. and you pay a lot of money to be here. So don't let things get in the way.
But he's done teaching.
Right.
Okay, well, maybe on that note, we'll say good night. Before we leave, I want to say thank you to Thaddeus and Karen for sharing this conversation, which I really enjoyed. I also want to thank our funders, Mount Allison University, the Canada Council for the Arts, the New Brunswick Department of Tourism, Heritage and Culture, the Town of Tantramar, and the Friends of the Owens. I want to thank my staff for being wonderfully supportive and helpful and hanging a clock where I could see it. And I also want to remind everyone that the Sweetest Little Thing is coming and that the drop-off for work is this Friday, the 26th.
Oh, God. Deadlines.
Sorry, but slow down.
Okay.
Thank you.
Better get to the studio.